Salam and welcome back to SomaliDispatch.com's YouTube channel. My name is Abdulqadir Guled. Somaliland has been in the headlines recently for several reasons. One of them is the relationship with Taiwan and the renewed engagement with the US government, but also for less desirable reasons as well. To discuss these items, we reached out to Mohamed Haruun Bihi. He has a BA in international relations and an MA in social and public policy. He's also an ex-politician with the Somaliland opposition, currently independent consultant on human rights and development with UN agencies in Somalia. Mohammed is also a political commentator on the current affairs of the Horn of Africa, with a particular focus on Somaliland. Mohammed, welcome to SomaliDispatch.com. If you could start us off with an overview of Somaliland's current political situations, would be greatly appreciated.
I'm very pleased, and I truly admire the progress that the Somali Dispatch is making, despite the short period that it has been online. And I salute the effort you are making, and your team, the team under your leadership. And I truly appreciate the fact that you invited me to this show. After that, if I go to the question directly, Somaliland has gone through a complex situation in the past 30 years. And actually, when any state is forming, it normally goes through different kinds of complexities, and the journey to state formation is normally kind of an uphill battle. But Somaliland, despite all the difficulties, it has shown great kind of resilience to prove its existence despite all the challenges that's attached to a state to be not recognized by the international community, which means the state do not legally exist. Despite that big challenge, which is very big, Somaliland has proved its existence in the past 3 decades. And that's going down to various factors, which I think we will not have any space during this interview. And particularly, Somaliland has gone through very successful elections, municipal and parliamentary elections in the past few months, which has made Somaliland earn lots of respect and support by the international community, which went really very well. But the country is now facing tremendous kind of challenges, various challenges, political challenges, socio-economic challenges. And the biggest one is the current drought that is going throughout, not just Somaliland, but the whole region. So at the moment, Somaliland is facing both what I call man-made and natural disasters. Somaliland is facing both man-made and natural disasters. Man-made being political challenges, and the country is divided over political lines, and those political lines go down to a party, what we call party politics in the modern political language, which translates in the Somali context into kind of clan divide, and which means the political culture of Somaliland is based on clans and power sharing and consensus building. So those spaces that Somaliland politics is based upon is quite shaken because of the current political situation, which is mainly related to how the next presidential elections can be approached, which the government have one line and opposition parties have another line, and those lines are seem to be so far quite irreconcilable, and that political division about the upcoming presidential election has created quite political crisis in the country. And on top of that, the country is facing a severe drought, as I said at the beginning of the interview, not just Somaliland, but the entire region. And when you put those two together, it's quite a difficult combination. As you can see, for example, in the eastern part of the country, people are beginning to die of thirst, and because of the effects of the drought. And there are lots of calls from the international community to support particularly the eastern regions of the country, who are more vulnerable compared to the western regions of the country, who are much developed socioeconomically. And that is the situation. To put it in a nutshell, Somaliland is currently facing quite man-made and natural disasters.
Thank you for that assessment, Mohamed Haruun. To dive into our section, other sections of the interview, which are in line with your expertise in terms of political astuteness and studying political science and working on other civil endeavors as well. If we could go to the political first, could you perhaps dive into and explain? Much have been said about the sequence of elections, for example. As per law number 14, which speaks to the electoral laws of the country, the presidential elections should happen in November, and the party certificates, the three national party certificates, expire in December of this year, both of them. So the dispute revolves around which is to come first. It's been said that the president is inclined or perhaps is hoping to postpone his election and get rid of the current political opposition parties and have and hold political association elections. To explain a bit, what do you think about that dispute, and what ramifications could that have on the country's quest for recognition and continued stability in that country?
That's actually that crisis about the upcoming presidential elections is at the heart of the current political crisis in Somaliland, and much has been said, as you rightly mentioned, about that dispute. And quite frankly, that dispute is just it's not quite natural. It's just it looks like the crisis, the political crisis, is being pushed, and it's kind of man-made and hand delivered by the executive, particularly the president. The political opposition parties have talked about this quite in length, and the license you have mentioned for the political parties is a period, is a tenure of 10 year, complete 1 decade, and the design for that law number 14 is it means to allow political parties to compete in 2 presidential elections during their tenure. At present, the government is now peddling another approach, and the government is trying to create a new political reality in the country, where first of all, the upcoming presidential elections is designed to be pushed to its designated constitutional deadline, which is just 5 years, and that is on the 13th of November. That is a constitutional requirement upon the government and upon the president to hold a presidential election every 5 years, and that 5 years is ending on the 13th of November. Beyond that date, the president will not have a mandate to govern. Secondly, he is trying to open the door for new parties to register. In Somaliland, they call it political organizations because they are political organizations before they turn into a political party. And the other challenge here is that in the Somaliland political system, political organizations become political party when they compete for the local municipal elections. And in the current case, there are no municipal elections on the table because municipal elections has been held just 6 months ago, which means those organizations being registered will compete without any municipal elections or parliamentary elections, and the public are designed to choose one political organization from the other without resulting any municipal elections or parliamentary elections. And that kind of election is new to the Somaliland situation, and the Somaliland laws about elections do not have any mandate to hold a national election without going to a parliamentary election or municipal election or presidential election. These are the only 3 elections that the law of the land is explaining and allowing to happen in the country. Anything other than that is quite unconstitutional and cannot be held. So there is a serious constitutional complexity that's not allowing for that kind of election to happen. And the second challenge here is the current political stakeholders do not have one view about that election, about the political organizations and their registered and the way that their election has to be organized and delivered. So with all these challenges, organizational elections cannot take place in the country. And the president is going beyond his constitutional mandate, which means the country is facing absolutely serious political crisis due to this, what I call man-made constitutional crisis. And so that's what's happening currently in Somaliland. There are lots of efforts from the region, particularly the government of Ethiopia is pushing both parties who all have closer relations. They are pushing for that kind of crisis not to go out of control and the country not to face any challenges, because this region is facing anyway quite a political and security crisis. And there is no need for more security crisis in the region. That's what they made absolutely clear for the president when he recently visited Addis Ababa. And on top of that, European countries plus UK and Denmark have sent quite a joint visit to Somaliland recently, and there is another one that's upcoming on the 16th of this month. And they have made their position absolutely clear that Somaliland cannot afford to delay its presidential elections anymore. They have made that absolutely clear, and they called upon all parties and stakeholders to sit together and produce to create solution for this crisis. Actually, political parties has actually showed and declared their preparedness to enter that kind of negotiation, and they have written open letter to the president inviting him to hold that talks for stakeholders. But the president is so far showing clear disinterest to any negotiation of that nature. So the country is facing serious challenges, and the public as well as political parties are divided along those lines.
Mm-hmm. To add to that a bit, Somaliland has gained a political capital and a brace, as you've started in this interview, with their achievements in terms of building a peaceful nation and having a one person, one vote. And it's been in the international arena lately that Somaliland has been talked about in terms of deserving of at least a special status, if not of an outright recognition. Much has been said in the media lately about congressional staff visiting Hargeisa, the relationship with Taiwan, which we will discuss later. When you look at all of those achievements over the past 3 decades, to have this kind of crisis, what does it do to the reputation of the country?
It's doing actually a big blow to the reputation of the country. There's no doubt about that. And this crisis, as I said at the beginning of the interview, is quite man-made. This is not quite natural. This is absolutely avoidable. This is absolutely unnecessary. And the country would have been better without this unnecessary political and constitutional crisis about elections. As you said, Somaliland has gained much reputation about managing the country peacefully and holding all these elections, parliamentary, presidential, municipal, all these things, which are not easy undertaking for a country that's not recognized like Somaliland. Absolutely recognized countries getting support from the international community are unable to manage quite successive kind of elections of that nature. So because of that, Somalia has gained actually a notable recognition, political kind of reputation, I said, from the international community far and near. But it looks like Somaliland politicians are not capitalizing on this properly. And it looks like Somaliland politicians are taking Somaliland and the aspirations of the Somaliland people quite backward rather than forward. And this is absolutely unnecessary. And to add on to that, if you recall the recent debate held by some UK parliamentarians at the House of Commons in London, have been calling Somaliland to be recognized, and Somaliland cannot afford to stay in this limbo any longer. And the basis of their argument was that Somaliland is absolutely democratic country who managed to prove its existence in the past 30 years. And the latest 2 elections, the parliamentary and municipal, has been at the center of the gravity in their debate. And they have been calling Somaliland to build on that notable achievement. Now, it looks like Somaliland politicians, specifically the government, is choosing the wrong pathway and taking the nation to the wrong direction, actually, to be blunt.
Now, also, much has been discussed in media, international media, be it an international press, the year-old political relationship between Taiwan and Somaliland, and the views of Somalia and China that consider those other 2 nations to be part of them. What were the takeaways that you've noticed over that year? And lastly, on last week's ministerial visit, high-level delegation from Somaliland visiting Taipei, and the fallouts, and if you could speak to that for us.
Yeah, this has been quite interesting development. There was quite of notable rapprochement between Taipei and Hargeisa, in other words, Somaliland and Taiwan, and both countries are quite in a similar situation, or be albeit quite different in so many ways. But Thailand is in a much better situation in various ways. But when you look at it generally, Somaliland and Taiwan do not have are not part of the international community. They are not part of the community of nations. So they have that's something they have in common, and the relationship has begun with what I call slow speed. Although Somaliland politicians have been trying to rush the matter, and they actually they showed their interest that Taiwan to recognize Somaliland, and that was their first ask. And actually, Somaliland is in a critical situation because no country has recognized Somaliland in the past 30 years. And so actually, Somaliland has asked the recognition, outright recognition, but the Taiwanese angle has actually advised for that not to be the first step in this relationship, and fearing ramification from the powerful neighbor China, and they decided the relationship to fly on a lower mood, and there has been some kind of economic and agricultural and political cooperation between the two sides. Two offices has been opened in the capital of each other, and that has been going in slow motion, and the world community doesn't notice it, but for some reason that relation has been taken to what I call a next level in a negative way, to a certain extent, because the Somaliland delegation has publicized quite unnecessarily that visit. It has been in the media, and the delegation has been large, and that has created quite different opinion and outright refusal and condemnation from the powerful neighbor China. Although the spokesman of the foreign ministry has avoided to say the word Somaliland, but he condemned that developing relationship, and they have powerful presence in the region, and I think Somaliland would have been able to manage that relationship in a more wiser way than it is currently. And countries that are trying to have any kind of relationship with Taiwan, particularly the countries from the developing world or the third world, do it with complete secrecy, discreetly, and their official visits are not announced. I mean, I'm talking about recognized governments in the developing world who have a relationship of one kind or the other with Taiwan. The official visits are not announced. They do not hold press conference, joint press conference with Taiwanese officials, and they're doing that for a reason. There is a factor causing that kind of relationship to be done with secrecy, and those visits to be absolutely discreet. Now, Somaliland officials has openly managed their business with Taiwan. They held press conference over there, and sometimes even the foreign minister was trying to challenge even China, and has been making statements about China, and I think quite clearly that shouldn't be the case. Somaliland could have done this and managed this business in a different way, and but they have not been careful. And China has all the cards to play in the region. They have their big base in Djibouti, just further north. They have quite big embassy and good relationship, close relationship with Somalia, who still considers itself as the parent country, and the country that's representing Somaliland legally, albeit not politically or economically or anything in that matter. They are still considering that they are representing Somaliland, and the whole world recognizes that Somalia is just one country. China has big embassy over there and closer relationship, and they can play their cards in any way they like to stop this blossoming relationship. And Somaliland politicians needed to be careful and manage this young relationship in a way that's more sustainable and more beneficial for both parties. Now they are looking. They look like they are deliberately wanting to pull the tiger by its tail, without without any necessary causes for that, and that's quite dangerous move in my assessment.
No, I appreciate that, and I thank you for your time tonight, as late as it is, with those explanations. A much needed conversation around Somaliland and its progression and where it stands today. Thank you very much, Mohamed Harun, for your expertise tonight.
Thank you, Abdul Qadir. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.